For privacy reasons, names and places have been changed. This story is inspired by true events.
On the morning of July 21, 2001, 42-year-old Jordan Kim, an avid hiker, left for a short adventure with her family on the iconic Mist Trail in Yosemite National Park, CA. They never arrived back at their camp. Despite an extensive and exhaustive investigation involving park rangers, SAR teams, and countless volunteers, Jordan Kim and her entire family vanished without a trace, leaving behind only a crumpled map. For 19 long, agonizing years, their loved ones lived with crushing uncertainty, clinging to any glimmer of hope. Then, in 2020, a disturbing and unexpected discovery was made. A weathered point-and-shoot camera, its strapped stiff with old blood. This is the complete investigation into what happened to Jordan Kim and her family. Before we continue, let us know where you're watching from, and if you enjoy this content, consider liking and subscribing to our channel. Now let's continue. Yosemite National Park, a jewel of the Sierra Nevada, draws millions each year with its towering granite cliffs, ancient sequoias, and thundering waterfalls. Among its most iconic and frequented paths is the Mist Trail, a serpentine route offering breathtaking views of Vernal and Nevada Falls. It is a trail that promises wonder, beauty, and a manageable challenge for hikers of varying experience levels. Yet even in such a well-trodden and seemingly benevolent landscape, the wilderness can hold secrets, swallowing lives whole, leaving only an enduring silence in its wake. It was on this very trail in the summer of 2001 that a family embarked on what should have been a routine outing, only to vanish without a trace. Jordan Kim, a 42-year-old parent and an ardent hiker, possessed an intimate familiarity with the trails of Yosemite. Their passion for the outdoors was a defining characteristic, often shared with their family on weekend excursions. That particular morning, the Kim family set out with the intention of enjoying a relatively short, invigorating hike along the Mist Trail. The weather was clear, the path well marked, and their spirits were high. They were expected back by late afternoon, a simple plan for a day spent reconnecting with nature. As the hours passed and the sun began its descent, an initial flicker of concern grew into a cold dread. The family had not returned. Phone calls went unanswered, and their parked vehicle remained undisturbed in the designated lot. The ordinary anticipation of their return transformed into a desperate vigil. The park ranger station was alerted, setting in motion a chain of events that would soon become a full-scale search. The immediate search yielded only one perplexing clue: a crumpled map of the Yosemite Valley, discovered beside the trail near the junction leading to Vernal Fall. It offered no explanation, no indication of distress, merely a discarded piece of paper that seemed to mock the growing desperation. An entire family had simply ceased to exist, evaporating into the vast, unforgiving expanse of the national park. The circumstances were baffling. They were not inexperienced. The trail was busy. Yet Jordan Kim and their family had disappeared completely, leaving behind an impenetrable void and a mystery that would confound investigators for nearly 2 decades. The alarm concerning the Kim family's prolonged absence quickly escalated into a full-scale emergency. As darkness descended upon Yosemite Valley, search and rescue protocols were immediately activated. Park Ranger Elena Ruiz, a seasoned veteran with over 15 years of experience navigating Yosemite's formidable landscapes, found herself at the helm of a rapidly assembling command center. Her initial assessment of the situation indicated a critical window for intervention. Every passing hour diminished the chances of a positive outcome in such an unforgiving environment. Yosemite National Park, while a beacon of natural splendor, is also a vast and perilous wilderness, encompassing nearly 1,200 square miles of rugged mountains, deep canyons, and dense forests. The Mist Trail, despite its popularity, winds through areas that quickly transition into treacherous terrain, where a misstep can lead to devastating consequences. This immense scale and the inherent dangers of the backcountry presented an immediate and daunting challenge to the search operation. By dawn, a multi-agency effort was underway, involving park rangers, specialized search and rescue teams, K-9 units, and numerous dedicated volunteers. Helicopters equipped with thermal imaging crisscrossed the expansive search grid, their powerful beams cutting through the early morning mist. Ground teams meticulously scoured every inch of the mist trail and its surrounding areas, expanding their perimeter into less accessible zones, driven by a desperate hope of finding some sign. They investigated every crevice, every thicket, every potential hiding spot. However, despite the exhaustive and relentless effort, the search yielded nothing. There were no discarded items, no footprints diverging from the main path, no signs of a struggle, and no bodies. Beyond the crumpled map found the previous day, the wilderness offered no further clues to the family's fate. Initial theories circulated among the searchers and investigators. Had the family simply strayed off the trail, succumbing to exposure or a fall in a remote area? Was it possible they had encountered an aggressive animal, or perhaps even foul play, though such incidents were exceedingly rare in the park? Without any concrete evidence, each theory remained pure speculation. The absence of any tangible trace, coupled with the family's hiking experience, only deepened the perplexing nature of their disappearance, pushing the investigation towards an agonizing impasse. Despite the initial intensity and the relentless dedication of Ranger Ruiz and her teams, the vastness of Yosemite and the complete absence of further clues began to take their toll. Weeks bled into months, and the daily ground patrols and aerial surveys, once robust, gradually diminished in scale. Resources, both human and financial, were finite, and without any new leads, the active search efforts for Jordan Kim and their family eventually reached an inevitable cessation. The fervent hope that had fueled the early days of the investigation slowly gave way to a grim, undeniable reality. The wilderness had not yielded its secret. The investigation officially reached an impasse. Detectives reviewed every detail, re-interviewed acquaintances, and scoured records, but no new information surfaced. There were no ransom demands, no suspicious financial activity, no known enemies, and no credible sightings. The crumpled map remained the sole, enigmatic artifact connected to their disappearance. Without a crime scene, without bodies, and without witnesses, the case defied conventional investigative methods. It became an inexplicable void, a puzzle with no pieces. The initial theories of getting lost or an accidental fall, while plausible in such terrain, could not be substantiated, leaving a frustrating vacuum of uncertainty. For the surviving family and friends, this winding down of the active search was not a conclusion, but an agonizing suspension. They were left in a torturous limbo, forever grappling with the unknown, unable to mourn, unable to find closure. The frustration among the investigators, particularly Ranger Ruiz, was profound. To have an entire family vanish without a trace in a well-trafficked national park was an anomaly that haunted their professional consciousness. As the years passed, the Jordan Kim case transitioned from an active investigation into a cold case, filed away as another haunting enigma of Yosemite. It became a file among many, reviewed periodically, but without any fresh impetus for a breakthrough. The initial media attention faded, and the memory of the missing family receded from public consciousness, becoming a whispered tragedy among park personnel. Nearly 2 decades would pass, a long period of silence during which no new developments emerged, making the case seem permanently lost to history, another unsolved mystery swallowed by the majestic, indifferent wilderness. 19 years had passed since Jordan Kim and their family disappeared without a trace on Yosemite's mist trail. The dense forests had seen countless seasons change, the waterfalls had roared and dwindled with the snowmelt, and the memory of the missing family had become a fading echo, primarily confined to the park's cold case files. For nearly 2 decades, the vast wilderness had guarded its secret, leaving behind only the crumpled map and an enduring, unanswered question. Then, in the late summer of 2020, an unexpected and profoundly disturbing discovery shattered the long silence, igniting a dormant investigation with a chilling new immediacy. A solo hiker, traversing an infrequently used game trail that veered some distance from the main M.I.S. trail, stumbled upon an object partially obscured by tangled undergrowth and leaf litter. It was a small, point-and-shoot camera, its plastic casing bleached and cracked by years of exposure to the elements. Its once vibrant color had faded to a dull, indeterminate shade, and its lens was coated with a fine layer of grime. Such a find might ordinarily be dismissed as forgotten trash, a relic of a past visitor. However, as the hiker carefully dislodged it from the earth, a detail emerged that instantly elevated the discovery from mere litter to a potential key to a long unsolved mystery. The camera's wrist strap, once likely a flexible fabric, was now stiff and darkened, not by dirt or mildew, but by what appeared to be old, coagulated blood. The discoloration was unmistakable, a deep reddish brown that had withstood years of sun and rain. This was not a simple lost item. It was evidence, grim and silent, speaking of a struggle or a violent end. The implication was immediate and stark. This weathered device, found within the general vicinity of the Kim family's last known location, could be directly connected to their disappearance. The discovery sent a ripple of both renewed hope and profound horror through the investigative community. The cold case, once a symbol of insurmountable odds, was suddenly imbued with a tangible lead. The presence of blood on the camera strap transformed the narrative from one of hikers lost to the elements into a sinister possibility of foul play or a catastrophic, violent accident. This single, small object had the power to redefine nearly 2 decades of conjecture and despair. Recognizing the immense significance of their find, the hiker immediately reported it to park authorities. The camera was handled with meticulous care, sealed in an evidence bag, and swiftly transferred through a stringent chain of custody, destined for the specialized hands of forensic experts. Every precaution was taken to preserve any potential DNA, fingerprints, or, most critically, any data that might still reside within its ancient electronic heart. The discovery of the blood-stained camera instantly galvanized the dormant investigation, transforming the Jordan Kim family's disappearance from a cold case file into an active, high-priority inquiry once more. The initial evidence collection and analysis were critical, but all eyes turned to the weathered point-and-shoot camera, the most tangible link to the past. It was carefully transported to a specialized forensic laboratory where photo-forensics tech Priya Nadeem awaited its arrival. Nadeem, renowned for her meticulous approach and success in salvaging data from severely compromised media, understood the immense weight resting on her expertise. This was not merely a technical task. It was an archaeological excavation into the digital past, fraught with uncertainty. The camera itself presented a formidable challenge. It was not a modern digital device, but an older model, its plastic casing brittle and cracked, its internal components vulnerable to corrosion and degradation after nearly 2 decades exposed to Yosemite's harsh conditions. Water damage, temperature fluctuations, and the passage of time had all conspired against the preservation of its contents. Nadeem could not simply connect it to a computer. The delicate electronic circuitry might have failed, the memory card corrupted, or even physically damaged beyond conventional access. Each step required extreme caution, beginning with a thorough external examination under a microscope to assess structural integrity and potential points of failure. The process was painstakingly slow, involving a cleanroom environment to prevent further contamination, specialized micro-soldering tools to repair fractured connections, and bespoke data recovery software designed to interface with obsolete hardware. Nadim meticulously disassembled the camera, component by delicate component, her movements precise and deliberate. She worked to bypass damaged power systems, attempting to directly access the core memory chip, where images might still reside, a painstaking operation akin to neurosurgery on a fragile, ancient artifact. Every speck of dust was a potential contaminant, every jolt a risk of irreversible damage. The pressure was immense. This small, unassuming device held the potential to unlock a 19-year-old mystery, offering the only hope for answers to a family tormented by uncertainty and to an investigative team that had long felt defeated. Every flicker of data, every salvaged byte, could be the key to understanding what truly happened on the missed trail in 2001. After days of meticulous, almost surgical work, photo forensics tech Priya Nadim finally achieved a breakthrough. The ancient memory chip, coaxed back to life through a delicate process of resoldering and custom data extraction, began to yield its long-held secrets. A faint but undeniable signal rippled across her monitor, materializing into the first salvaged image in nearly 2 decades. The silence in the lab was profound as the grainy, yet discernible photographs appeared, each one a window into the past, utterly transforming the cold case. The first frame was chilling in its ordinariness, then terrifying in its subtle detail. It showed Jordan Kim and their family, mid-stride on the missed trail, seemingly enjoying their hike. Their faces were turned slightly away, looking towards the majestic scenery. But behind them, partially obscured by the dappled light of the forest and a cluster of ferns, a shadowy figure lingered. The image was not perfectly clear, but the outline of a person distinct from the Kim family was undeniable. This was no fellow hiker passing by. The posture suggested observation, a subtle, almost imperceptible act of shadowing. The implication was immediate and stark. The family had not been alone. The second frame offered a different, equally disturbing clue. It was a close-up, disorienting in its blur, yet revealing a crucial detail. Against a backdrop of tangled undergrowth and granite, a piece of brightly colored fabric was snagged on a gnarled branch, a torn poncho. More significantly, just beyond the fabric, the camera had captured the edge of a concealed fissure, a dark, jagged opening in the rock face, barely visible amidst the dense foliage. This was not a well-known landmark, but a hidden crevice, hinting at a precipitous drop or a secluded, dangerous alcove. These 2 salvaged frames, unearthed from the decaying camera, shattered the long-held assumptions about the Kim family's disappearance. The idea of them simply getting lost, or succumbing to an accidental fall on the main trail, was immediately supplanted by a far more sinister or catastrophic scenario. The presence of an unidentified stranger in the first photograph raised immediate suspicions of foul play, introducing a human element of threat that had been absent from all previous theories. The second image, with its torn fabric and the revelation of a hidden fissure, pointed to a specific location where a struggle or a tragic fall into an unseen chasm might have occurred. The images were immediately forwarded to investigators, who in turn contacted retired search and rescue climber Buck Hanley. His intimate, almost encyclopedic knowledge of Yosemite's most treacherous and hidden areas, honed over decades of service, made him the ideal candidate. His task was clear: to locate the precise fissure indicated in the photograph, a seemingly impossible mission given the vastness of the park and the obscurity of the clue. The case had shifted dramatically, moving from an unsolved mystery to an active investigation into a potential crime or a hidden, devastating accident. With a newly identified location and an ominous, shadowy figure at its heart, Buck Hanley, with the recovered photograph as his guide, embarked on a perilous expedition to locate the concealed fissure. His decades of intimate knowledge of Yosemite's hidden dangers were paramount as he navigated the dense, untamed terrain, far from any marked path. The image, though grainy, provided just enough visual context, a specific rock formation, the angle of the torn poncho, to narrow the search. After 2 days of relentless climbing and rappelling into uncharted crevices, the distinct rip of fabric, now faded to a ghostly pale, confirmed his grim success. Snagged on a jagged outcropping deep within a narrow, almost invisible fissure, lay the tattered remnants of the poncho, exactly as depicted in the camera's final frame. Below it, nestled among fallen rock and ancient debris, lay the undeniable, somber evidence of what had transpired 19 years prior. The discovery within the fissure provided the unmistakable confirmation of the Kim family's tragic fate. The remains, while scattered and degraded by time and nature, were consistent with a catastrophic fall from a significant height. Forensic analysis would later confirm their identities, bringing a definitive, albeit devastating, end to the long uncertainty. Combined with the chilling image of the stranger shadowing the family on the trail, a new, horrifying narrative began to emerge. It was no longer a simple case of hikers lost or a tragic accident in plain sight. Instead, the evidence pointed to an encounter that had driven the family off the main path, culminating in a violent struggle or a desperate flight that ended in the hidden chasm. For the surviving relatives, the news was a complex tapestry of profound grief and a long-awaited, agonizing relief. 19 years of unanswered questions, of living in a purgatory of the unknown, had finally given way to a grim truth. The closure was poignant, bittersweet, and devastating. While the immediate fate of Jordan Kim and their family was now understood, the full story remained incomplete. The identity of the stranger in the photograph became the new, urgent focus of the investigation. Who was this individual? What was their motive? And how were they connected to the tragedy that unfolded on the missed trail? The pursuit of justice had now taken a definitive, targeted direction. Law enforcement agencies, armed with the salvaged image, initiated a comprehensive effort to identify the shadowy figure. The case of Jordan Kim and their family, once a cold mystery, had been dramatically reopened, transformed into an active manhunt for a potential perpetrator. The wilderness had finally relinquished its secret, but the human element of the tragedy, the question of accountability, still loomed large. The blood-stained camera, a silent witness from the past, had not only revealed a hidden grave but also cast a long, dark shadow forward, demanding that the full truth be brought to light, no matter how many years it took.